Hello all and welcome back to my channel. This is True Crime with Cam. Today we are going to be talking about 3 different cases. That's right, 3. And all of these cases involve a person meeting a stranger over a dating app on social media and having their life taken away by this stranger, or strangers, plural. In 2019, Tinder reported that it reached an audience of 7.8 million users, which brings us to our first case. Sydney Irene Loofe was born in Lincoln, Nebraska on August 21st, 1993. At the age of 7, her family moved to Neely, Nebraska, where she attended public school until she graduated in May of 2011. Sydney loved the outdoors, fishing, animals, and was known for having a kind heart and many friends. I'm not sure at what age, but eventually Sydney moved and settled in Lincoln, Nebraska, and was working at a local hardware store. At the age of 24, Sydney started using the app Tinder, and in November of 2017, matched with a woman named Audrey. The two began exchanging flirtatious messages, and eventually decided that they wanted to hang out in person. On November 14th, Audrey picked Sydney up, and the two hung out that night. Apparently they drove around and smoked a little bit of marijuana. Sydney was dropped back off later that night and texted one of her friends about how much she enjoyed the date and already planned on going on a second one the very next night. Her text read, quote, "Just got done chilling with this super cute girl," followed by, quote, "I hope she doesn't have a boyfriend. I didn't ask." A common occurrence for women seeking women on dating apps is running into couples looking for a third. Sydney probably swiped past dozens of profiles of women who were looking to, quote, spice up their relationship or seeking a third in a polygamous partnership. Sydney thought she had finally found a woman she could trust, and she really seemed to be into her, because she even called Audrey her dream girl. The next day, Sydney Loofe went to her job at Menards, where she worked as a lead cashier. After her shift, surveillance footage shows her exiting the building and heading towards her car. The footage also shows Aubrey Trail watching her walk out the doors. In reality, the person behind the Audrey profile on Tinder was 23-year-old Bailey Boswell, and the Aubrey that was stalking Sydney at her work was Bailey's boyfriend, 51-year-old Aubrey Trail. Earlier in the day, Aubrey had been at a different store with Bailey Boswell, the Home Depot, where they purchased a hacksaw, a 2-pack of drop cloths, a 5-pack of 12-inch hacksaw blades, and 10 snips. After their visit to the Home Depot and before they went to Menards, they made a stop at the Aardvark Antique Mall. The two had an antique dealer business called A&B Antiques, where customers could buy items from the cases they rented. Aubrey and Bailey picked up a check of their earnings, as well as purchasing 2 food grinders, a weed cutter, a Gerber folding saw, and drill. Around 2 p.m. that same day, on their way back home, they also stopped at a Dollar General and purchased Clorox, bleach, and hefty trash bags. Sydney Loofe got off her shift, went home, and started getting ready for her second date with who she thought was 25-year-old Aubrey. She even posted an update to her Snapchat story captioned, quote, "Ready for my date, heart eye emoji." Bailey and Sydney had sent roughly 140 messages back and forth to each other over Tinder. The last one Sydney received indicated that Bailey was outside her home at around 6:45 p.m. The two drove 40 miles south to the town of Wilbur, where Bailey and Aubrey lived in an apartment together. Once Sydney arrived in Wilbur, her phone was shut off and never turned on again. The next morning, Sydney failed to show up for work, and her parents immediately became concerned. That evening, around 5 p.m., her mother reported her missing. That same night, the landlord that lived above Bailey and Aubrey started smelling a strong odor of bleach. But in that moment, she had no idea why. Sydney's parents knew that something was incredibly wrong. She had missed work, left her Jeep in the driveway, and they especially knew she would never abandon her cat. Bailey Boswell and Aubrey Trail were identified as suspects in Sydney's murder early on, but investigators needed solid evidence to prove that they committed murder. Authorities knew that Bailey and Sydney had been communicating over Tinder, and they knew that Sydney's phone had shut off near the couple's apartment. 2 days after Sydney Loofe was reported missing, investigators searched their apartment on November 19th, but Aubrey and Bailey had fled. A report from police stated that the walls of the apartment had been wiped down in an effort to clean them. Aubrey Trail and Bailey Boswell were on the run. They stopped at a casino and several motels, distancing themselves from Wilbur, Nebraska. On November 28th, they were finally named suspects in the case, and the next day the couple did something that everyone can agree was idiotic. They posted a video to a Facebook page titled "Finding Sydney Loofe" to give their side of the story. Aubrey said, quote, "They're chasing us around like dogs," and said they themselves had reached out to police, but were told that they basically didn't want or need them. I'll show you some highlights of the video if you want to watch the entire rant and lose more brain cells than you're already about to. The link for the full video is going to be down below.
Good morning, Lincoln and Omaha and probably several other places. This is Aubrey Trail and this is Bailey Boswell. I guess y'all also know her as Audrey. But we've spent the last few days watching ourselves being slammed and crucified in the newspapers, and we thought it was time we had our say. We're not trying to defend anything. We're not trying to make you believe anything. We just feel we should get to say our side since everyone else gets to say theirs. Unlike the Lincoln Police Department and Saline County Police Department and all those folks, everything we're going to tell you, you're going to be able to pick up the phone or have a newspaper pick up the phone and very easily verify it. I am going to talk for a minute, then Bailey here is going to tell you about her 2 dates with Sydney, and we'll go from there. The Lincoln Police Department apparently wants everyone to believe that we're hiding, that we haven't talked to them, that we're avoiding them. Several other things. I guess the FBI and the U.S. Marshals and all that good stuff, and a lot of other people with a lot of initials that I have no idea what means, is investigating, looking for us or whatever. We were at our house 4 days ago. You've already crucified us in the newspapers. You've already crucified us on Facebook. You know, in America, I sure thought it was a trial first, but I guess not. But I pray for Sydney. I hope she's found soon. I wish the family the best. I'm sorry that she wasn't with you on Thanksgiving. And that's pretty much all I can say for now. Here's Bailey to tell you whatever she wants to. I'm fixing to step aside and get out of this. Thank you for listening.
Hi, good morning. I'm Bailey, Audrey on Tinder, and a few other names because I have warrants, but this really isn't about me. This is about Sydney, and I'm just kind of want to tell you what I've already told the Lincoln police more than one time. I met her on a Tuesday. We drove around Lincoln, smoked weed, had a great time. We hit it off. I dropped her off at home, picked her up the next night at her house. We drove around, smoked weed again, made our way to my house where we smoked wax and shatter, and I gave her a 1/4 ounce of some really good weed. I went to take her home, and she asked me to drop her off at a friend's house, so I did so. I gave her my number. We were planning to go to the casino that weekend. I mean, I haven't heard from her since. I really don't even know what else to say. I've been seeing all this stuff on the news presses and the magazines and the news, and I guess I just want the family to know that I'm truly sorry and I didn't have anything to do with this, and I hope that Sydney is found very soon. She is a sweet, amazing girl. I don't know. Babe, do you have anything else to say?
This video was removed from the page and deleted, but not before copies were made. Aubrey Trail then had the genius idea of uploading another video to Facebook. Here it is.
Hi folks, Aubrey Trail here. Few little things I want to talk about. I've been watching all day. I just watched the news. That's why I'm making this. First thing I want to clarify is the news just reported that our contact with the police in Lincoln never took place. Well, let me assure you that it did. Bailey spoke with investigator Cleveland twice. I called on the 22nd. I called the investigator's phone and left messages about 4 times. I called the Lincoln Police Department, the dispatchers, about 8 times. As far as this is not on record, I guarantee you it's on record. It's on Bailey's Tinder phone. It'll be on their phones. The police can say or do what they want, as I can, so you'll believe what you believe. But I've been watching a lot of posts and comments today. So far today, from the comments, we have apparently murdered this lady. We have apparently put her into human trafficking and sold her. And not only did we do that, we used the money. We went to the casino that weekend and used the money that we sold her for. Bailey didn't drop her at a friend's house. She dropped her off at her drug dealer's house, Bailey's, according to the comments you guys are making. Oh yeah, and don't forget the one that I was in Falls City. I lived in Falls City for a long time. So I have some connection to the Rouleau cult because people heard all about that. And just out of curiosity, is it me, or I guess it's just me and, my criminal mind, how that works? The post we made this morning was deleted from the family's Facebook. Totally understandable. My whole Facebook and Bailey's whole Facebook page was deleted. The video was taken off by the feds or whoever took it off. Just curious, are we not allowed to tell our side of this? But I mean, goddamn, I've never killed anyone in my life. I've never hurt a female in my life. So take that for whatever the hell it's worth. We don't have much to tell. Someone wanted to know what friend Bailey dropped Sydney off with. Bailey knew Sydney for 2 days. How the hell does she know? You pretty much blatantly said that we murdered this girl.
Police then released a statement and said that they were in fact still searching for Bailey and Aubrey, and that they had not turned themselves in. Bailey also said that her and Sydney had in fact hung out, but she had dropped Sydney off at a friend's house and hadn't heard from her since. She just confirmed that she was the last person to see Sydney. The next day, on November 30th, they were both arrested in Branson, Missouri, but it wasn't for murder charges. It was for charges of fraud. Because investigators hadn't built a case against Aubrey and Bailey yet, they had to dig deeper into their criminal history and find a way to keep them locked up. Luckily, a Kansas couple came forward and shared that Aubrey and Bailey had used their antique business to scam them out of $400,000. This case of fraud went to trial, and the judge gave Aubrey 10 years and Bailey half that, just 5. During this time, the prosecution was building a case against the killer couple, which took roughly 8 months. A break in the investigation came early on, just days after the couple's initial arrest on December 4th of that same year, but it left Sydney's family devastated. Her body was found dismembered into 14 pieces, wrapped tightly in garbage bags, and scattered in a field close to a rural highway near Edgar. Sydney was immediately identified through her tattoos. On her bicep, one read, quote, "Everything will be wonderful someday." On June 11, 2018, the FBI questioned Aubrey Trail about the death of Sydney, and they were met with nothing but lies. Anyone with a brain could easily dispute Aubrey's claims about the circumstances in which he claimed that Sydney was killed. He told FBI agents that Sydney willingly agreed to participate in a staged sexual fantasy with him and 2 other women. This completely goes against what Sydney told her friend before the date with Bailey. She hoped that Bailey didn't have a boyfriend. There's no way she would want to jump from no boyfriend to sexual fantasy with old man and 2 random women. Sydney had even asked Bailey over Tinder, quote, "Just going to be me and you, right?" To which she responded, quote, "Okay, yes, of course." I believe the agents picked this apart immediately, so Aubrey pulled another lie out of his bum. He told them that Sydney had money problems and accepted $5,000 for her role. And during that role, she was accidentally strangled to death with an electrical cord. He allegedly didn't call for help because he didn't think anyone would believe him. More statements that I personally believe are fantasies of Aubrey's own is that he was supposedly paid $15,000 by these 2 other women to act in this fantasy. He also wouldn't name the 2 other women. Here are some other wild statements that Aubrey Trail made. Let's just get them out of the way. He said that he deposited Sydney's body in Clay County because a cemetery there was a, quote, "special place" in his beliefs. He claimed her body parts were located in a certain way along the ditches to speed her incarnation. He told the FBI, quote, "I don't believe in the God you believe in." Aubrey said he was once paid $30,000 to stage a fantasy for a woman who came all the way from Alabama to Wilbur. He claimed, quote, "Everything in the world is based on money," and boasted that his life was money, sex, and women. And if you think those claims are outrageous, don't worry, it's about to get crazier. In June of 2019, on the first day of Aubrey Trail's second week of trial, he stood up and interrupted the judge. He yelled, quote, "Bailey is innocent and I curse you all," then cut his throat with a small blade a few times, falling out of his wheelchair. The judge ordered that everyone evacuate the courtroom immediately except the attorneys and deputies. An ambulance soon arrived and Aubrey was carted off to the emergency room where he received a few stitches. That performance, in addition to the evidence against Aubrey Trail, did not go over well. 3 anonymous women testified that they had also met Bailey over Tinder and were eventually introduced to her, quote, "sugar daddy, Aubrey." These women reportedly received clothes and gifts and were given allowances of up to $200 a week by Trail to join the group. Doesn't sound like enough money to me. Aubrey referred to these women as witches and bragged that it had 12 women total. These women were required to follow rules, which included participating in group sex, helping them steal and sell antiques, and obeying their every wish. It also included being naked in their apartment and accepting whippings as a punishment if they misbehaved. Bailey had talked often about wanting to kill someone so that she and the other women could become witches and gain powers. Aubrey and Bailey also spoke about wanting to torture and kill someone on video so they could sell it for $1 million. Finally, on the day of sentencing, the truth came out about why Aubrey Trail and Bailey Boswell murdered Sydney Loofe. Aubrey claimed that he tried to recruit Sydney into their crime and sex ring, but she ultimately rejected him. He murdered her after she, quote, "freaked out" and was willing to do anything to protect his criminal lifestyle. This is Aubrey's statement given to the court before sentencing. Quote, "I realize nothing I can say here will change in the least what I did to Sydney 3.5 years ago. I won't say I'm sorry, as that would be an insult to you after what I put you through, and I won't ask for forgiveness as I don't believe there is such a thing. I have done some terrible things in life, but this is the only thing I've ever done that I feel regret about. I could care less what you do to me today." Before Aubrey Trail was tried for murder, he told the World Herald, quote, "Try me, charge me. Let's get justice for Sydney Loofe." And that's exactly what happened. Aubrey Trail was found guilty of first-degree murder, improper disposal of human remains, and conspiracy to commit murder. On June 9th, 2021, the Loofe family received the highest amount of justice allowed by a court of law. Aubrey was sentenced to death. However, it's unlikely that Aubrey will ever be put to death at all, considering how hard it is to actually accomplish. In the state of Nebraska, there's only been one execution carried out in the past 24 years, Carrie Dean Moore in 2018. It's difficult to not only get the drugs required to execute people on death row, but to surpass the lengthy amount of appeals that rack up over the years. Bailey Boswell was also found guilty of the same charges and may face the death penalty as well, which would make her the first woman on Nebraska's death row. 25-year-old Kevin Bacon was a hairstylist at Uniquely You Salon in Swartz Creek, Michigan. He specialized in vibrant coloring and studied psychology at the University of Michigan, Flint. Michelle Myers was Kevin's best friend and roommate, and described him as colorful both inside and out. She said Kevin did what he wanted to, when he wanted to, and let very little hold him back. Kevin's dreams for the future involved being a hairdresser for runway models to helping people through clinical therapy. Those dreams would unfortunately never come to fruition, and the last time Michelle would see her best friend alive was on the evening of December 24th, 2019. Kevin headed out to meet a man he'd met on the dating app Grindr. At 6:12 p.m. that evening, he texted his friend that he'd be out for a while and wasn't sure when he'd be back. Kevin didn't return to their shared residence that night and didn't show up for the Christmas breakfast his family hosted the very next day. His father, Carl Bacon, reported him missing that morning. Soon later, police discovered Kevin's car in a Dollar General parking lot and his phone was still inside. The state police were able to extract the conversation between Kevin and a man he had planned on meeting the night of his disappearance. On December 28th, the police received a call requesting a welfare check at 703 Terrell Road in Maurice, Michigan. The troopers contacted the homeowner, 50-year-old Mark David Latunsky, and he granted them permission to enter and search. Mark answered the door topless in a brown leather skirt. Upon searching the home, a state policeman discovered a hidden room, and when he opened the door, he immediately shouted, "Oh my God, oh my God." Kevin's lifeless and naked body was hanging from the ceiling by his feet. A trap door was beneath him. In the room surrounding him were chains and sex toys. Mark Latunsky was immediately arrested, and this is what he told authorities. Mark claimed that Kevin had been suicidal in the past, and that he was going to help Kevin, quote, disappear. Mark then allegedly stabbed Kevin in the back of the neck with a knife and then slit his throat after realizing he wasn't dead yet. He also said he didn't want Kevin to, quote, suffer. Mark then went upstairs and realized that it was a new moon. Instead of having his usual meal of Rocky Mountain oysters, he decided to eat Kevin's testicles. I don't know any sane person that would jump from oysters to human flesh, so it's pretty clear that this guy has some mental health issues. Kevin's DNA was later found in Mark's skillet, and Mark's was found on the handle, confirming the cannibalism. A photo that Mark had taken of Kevin's testicles was also found and submitted into evidence. A forensic pathologist later confirmed that Kevin Bacon's cause of death was blood loss due to the sharp force injuries to the neck. Mark's attorney argued that Mark was helping Kevin attempt suicide, but there's a few issues with this theory. First, let's talk statistics. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the US, and the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 24. White males accounted for 69.38% of those deaths, according to a study done in 2019. When we specifically look at members of the LGBTQ community, these members contemplate suicide almost 3 times the rate of heterosexual youth. Kevin Bacon was a young, gay white man on antidepressants, and the statistics were against him. He'd been suicidal in the past, but letting a random man on Grindr stab you to death, hang up your body, and cannibalize you? That's a pretty outrageous suicide plan, and it didn't sound like the Kevin his friends and family knew. He was in college with a job, and everyone saw him as a bright, happy person. Not to mention, Kevin told his roommate the night he left that he was meeting someone from Grindr, but he didn't know when he would be back. That's definitely insinuating he would be back. Pam Bacon told ABC News that Kevin had even called his friends the day before, wished them a Merry Christmas, and told them he was excited to be with his family. Kevin's family wanted nothing less than for his killer to be left behind bars for life. In late February of 2020, Mark Latunsky was declared unfit to stand trial. Months later, on October 2nd, Mark's attorney filed for an independent psychological evaluation. 3 days later, Mark Latunsky was found competent to stand trial for the murder of 25-year-old Kevin Bacon. Mark's attorney had initially filed for an insanity defense, so let's take a look at his history of mental health issues. At his arraignment days after the murder, Mark said that his name was in fact not Mark Latunsky. He claimed his name was Edgar Thomas Hill, and that Mark Latunsky was his nephew. I don't know if Mark actually thought he could evade justice this way, or if it could be attributed fully to his mental illnesses. Mark's former wife Emily filed a motion to suspend his parental times with their children. The motion declared that Mark was diagnosed with major depression, paranoid schizophrenia, and traits of a personality disorder in 2010 and 2012. Mark was known to stop taking prescribed medications that were treating these conditions. In 2013, Mark took his kids and refused to return them back to their mother for over 24 hours. In 2014, he was found incompetent to stand trial, and in May of that year, a judge ordered him to undergo outpatient treatment. In August, a statement was released by his psychiatrist that stated this, quote, "Mark Latunsky has proven not to be a danger to himself or others despite brief periods of hospitalization and hasn't attempted to harm himself or others at any point." That did not age well. In December of 2016, Mark married a man named Jamie Arnold, who he, ironically, considering the circumstances, met on Grindr. Jamie claimed that Mark's mental health took a real downward spiral in February after being fired from his job making lubricants for American Chemical Technologies. Jamie believes that he was fired for erratic behavior at work and accusing the company of contaminating his products. Mark's words and actions got stranger and stranger. He claimed that his 4 children weren't his and that his neighbors were polluting the water supply. He also accused his former wife and her brother of poisoning his well water. In September of 2019, just months before Kevin Bacon's murder, Jamie moved out of Mark's home and the two separated. Jamie wasn't aware of Mark's conditions until he was arrested for not paying child support. Mark spent 4 days in jail, and upon his release, his spouse couldn't convince him to take his medication or go to therapy. Jamie said, quote, "Never in a million years did I think he'd be capable of doing such a horrendous crime." Police released a statement after finding Kevin's body, claiming that Kevin's phone had led them to his killer's house. And if they didn't find that phone, who knows if they would have ever found him. But if the warning signs of Mark Latunsky were beacons of light, it would have been in close competition with the fucking sun. This may have been the first time he killed someone, supposedly, but it was not the first time he almost had. It was the fucking third. On October 10th, 2019, James Carlson took a bus from New York to Michigan to meet what he thought was Jamie Arnold, Mark's former husband. James arrived at the bus station but was unexpectedly picked up by Mark Latunsky. James had come all this way after speaking with Mark over Grindr, and the two agreed to engage in consensual BDSM. Except, consent goes out the window when you're pretending to be someone else. James was exhausted from the bus trip and ultimately slept in the car until he arrived at Mark's home, and that's when he broke the news. Jamie had moved out. What came next was straight out of a horror movie. Mark got locks, chains, and leather straps and bound James in his creepy basement. Mark told him that he wasn't going anywhere, and then, strangely, just headed off to bed. After James thought Mark was asleep, he cut the leather straps with a butcher knife and then found his phone and fled the home. Let me also add, it's unclear where he even got the butcher knife. James ran down the street and proceeded to call 911. And I'm gonna play that recording for you right now.
Shay Wesley 911, where's your emergency?
This is going to sound insane. I'm here in Detroit. I'm from New York. And I met this guy at the bus station who offered me a ride. And I'm not even sure where I am. Well, I broke out of this fucking basement, and I need a ride.
Okay.
I'm in trouble. I can't even find my way back to his place if I wanted to. I don't know if you can take me a signal. I'm from New York. I'm walking down the street with a butcher knife, sweetheart. I need help.
Okay, I'm going to get you help. Are you walking down the street right now?
Yes, ma'am, I am. I'm passing a barn. It's all beautiful here.
You're passing what?
A barn. I don't know what street I'm on. Can you pin where I am?
Okay, it looks like I can. What's your name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I can't believe I don't know where I am. I don't know. Like, I never ever had anything like this happen. I don't know whether he drugged me. I don't know. I woke up in the fucking basement, okay? Chained in the basement with a leather thing around my ankle, and I cut it with the butcher knife that I have in my freaking hand, excuse my French.
Okay. Do you have anything on you right now? Are you carrying
I have
anything?
my phone. I'm sorry, what?
Are you carrying anything?
A butcher knife. Until I see a police officer, when I see a police officer, I will throw it. Until then, I don't trust that he's not walking up because I got lost, and I don't even know if I'm headed towards his house or not. That's why I'm dialing 911.
South Morris Road, I believe. All right, and listen, I've got help on the way. What were you here for?
I'm a volunteer court advocate. I came here to help on the CSC meeting, and I was supposed to be meeting them at the bus station. I met this guy. I'm by. He was cute. He hit on me. I don't know. We went out to the car. We talked. We went to the store. Had a soda. I woke up in the basement.
Okay.
He obviously drugged me.
Okay, when I get a trooper close to you, I'm going to need you to put that butcher knife down, though.
Oh, that's not an issue, sweetie. We'll go flying into the woods.
Okay.
Your officer is in no danger. I've been a public
You don't need to
advocate for
throw it in the
26 years.
woods, but I just don't want it on you.
And that's, yes, ma'am, and that's something I don't tell anybody. I mean, you can run me. You can check me out. I met this guy, he seemed like a nice guy. He points outside like he wanted to talk. I go outside. He goes, oh, well, I just started shooting birds. He was cute. I'm from New York, and I've never had this happen.
Are you injured at all? Do you think that you need any medical attention at all?
No, I'm not injured.
Okay.
I really know over myself. I'm in a panic right now. Cherry's only as good as the weakest link, honey. He had a leather strap to a metal chain. He's an idiot.
Do you know what his name was?
No.
No?
And I don't want to pursue it. I want to go home.
James told the operator he came to Michigan for work purposes and was hit on by a man at the bus station. Jesse went out to drink with the man before being held captive and eventually escaping. He said, quote, I'm trying to get away from some creepy guy, and that he was chained up in his basement and now he's being chased. He also said, quote, I'm from New York. I'm walking down the street with a butcher knife. Sweetheart, I need help. This was just months before Mark would take Kevin's life, and police knew of this event. But at that time, James didn't want to press charges. Michigan State Troopers gave James a ride to a local gas station, but he ended up returning to Mark's house that same night because he had no money left and nowhere to stay. So again, like I said, James initially did not want to press charges until he learned of the murder of Kevin Bacon. He's now suing Mark Latunsky on accusations of neglect and gross negligence, battery, and false imprisonment. 1 month later, on November 25th, a man who lived a quarter-mile away from Mark heard someone pounding on his door. It was around 4 in the afternoon, and the sound was accompanied with hysterics. He heard a man, quote, screaming, just bloody murder screaming, help me, help me, help me. The man called 911, and as he was giving them his home address, Mark Latunsky pulled into the driveway. Mark went right up to the man's door, and the man told him he needed to leave because the police were on the way. When the man told Mark to leave, Mark gave him a look up and down that he said gave him the creeps. The anonymous 29-year-old victim had been chained in Mark's basement, but managed to escape after he became frightened about his safety. No arrest was made because Mark and the anonymous man had apparently told police that what they were doing was consensual. Mark was only chasing the man down because he was wearing his $300 leather kilt. And I know these two events sound very similar, to the point where I thought the media had just gotten confused, and both of these events were just actually one incident involving James Carlson. But these are two completely separate dates, and there's even two 911 calls. So I'm gonna play that 911 recording right now that was placed on November 25th, 2019 by an anonymous 29-year-old man.
November 25, 2019, 16:48:48.
Charlotte County 911.
I want to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm trying to escape from some guy who had me chained up in his basement.
He had you chained in his basement? Where are you calling from?
I don't know. I don't know this road.
Are you on?
From here.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Looks like you're on Tyrell Road.
It could be.
Are you walking?
Yeah.
Hold on 1
I don't
second.
even have shoes on.
3562. You start for Tyrell Road just east of Morris Road.
I don't know if I should try to go to someone's house. I don't know where I'm at.
67, stand by. 3562. Can you start for Tyrell just east of Morris Road? Okay, I'm trying to put out a call. 62, okay. You can start off for Tyrell, just east of Morris Road. Had a subject that was chained up in someone's basement, just fled the residence. He's out on foot.
He's after me.
Okay, Z, I need you to go to somewhere safe. If you can run up to somebody's house. Where are you at right now? Are you able to get away?
Help me.
6'2", he's running towards the house. Guy's trying to come after him. I'm trying to get further. Okay, I need an address where you're at. I'm trying to get it.
What's your address? I'm on the phone with the cops right now.
431. What's their address? I need their address.
The state can file their own charges on behalf of a victim in a domestic violence situation, but according to the state, these incidents didn't fall under those guidelines. There were several celebrities who sent condolences to Kevin's family, including the actor Kevin Bacon himself. The most notable celebrity action, though, was from YouTuber and makeup artist Jeffree Star, who donated $20,000 to Kevin's funeral expenses. A year after Kevin's death, the Bacon family gathered to celebrate his life and paint the Flint Rock in honor of him. I wish I could provide a proper ending to this case, but because of the pandemic, as of right now, Mark Latunsky has yet to go to trial. 18-year-old Haley Bustos wanted some extra cash. A friend told her there's an easy way to get it: seeking out men on dating apps. Haley made an account on plentyoffish.com and started her search for a man that looked like he had some extra cash to spend on her. That's when she came upon 27-year-old Adam Hillaire of Auburndale, Florida. Adam worked as a roofer, he loved boxing, MMA, and most importantly, he was a father to a 5-year-old little girl. He and his long-term girlfriend, who shared a daughter together, had just broken up a month prior. Haley and Adam connected with each other on August 19th and agreed to go on a date that same evening. Haley visited Adam's apartment and the two went bowling together for a couple hours. Haley texted Adam and said, quote, "I had a good time and would like to see you again." That night, Haley arrived back at the apartment she was staying at around midnight. She started talking about the items in Adam Hillaire's residence to 29-year-old Joshua Ellington and 34-year-old Gary Gray. She told them that there were 2 TVs, an Xbox, jewelry, liquor, and cash. Haley apparently went to sleep, but a few hours later at 3 a.m. was woken up by one of those men. He told her to accompany them to Adam's apartment. Haley navigated as 29-year-old Andre Warner drove all of them to Adam's place. When they arrived, Haley Bustos and Joshua awaited in the car while Andre and Gary forced their way into Adam's home. Once the 2 of them broke in, they forced Adam onto his knees and held him at gunpoint. He told them that they could take anything they wanted, but to spare his life for the sake of his 5-year-old daughter. He wasn't putting up a fight at all, he just wanted to make it out of the situation alive, so he could continue helping care for his daughter. Andre Warner, who was a father himself, ignored Adam's plea and shot him in the head once, killing him. Andre and Gary loaded up their car with Adam's belongings, including his own iPhone. According to Haley, Andre said he thought it was funny that Adam had been begging for his life. The next day, around 6:40 in the afternoon, a man who had been staying with Adam named John rode his bike up to the back door. He didn't have any keys with him, but noticed that Adam's car was there, so he would be able to let him in. John kept knocking, but eventually gave up because no one was answering. He rode his bike around to the front and noticed that the front door was slightly open. According to him, no one entered the house through the front door, so he thought this was really strange, but he made his way in anyways. Upon entering, he noticed immediately that the place had been ransacked. The TV was missing and miscellaneous items were strewn about the home. He entered the kitchen, and on the floor in a pool of blood was the lifeless body of 27-year-old Adam Hillaire. 3 days later, after a witness came forward claiming that they saw Haley with Adam the night before the murder, the group was arrested. Haley Bustos, Andre Warner, Gary Gray, and Joshua Ellington were all charged with conspiracy to commit robbery, robbery with a deadly weapon, and first-degree murder. Haley told investigators she was given $50 to find a man on the dating site that the group could rob. She also told them that Andre was the one who pulled the trigger, but Andre claimed he was never even there. He just let them borrow his car. The trial didn't begin for Andre Warner until March of 2020, 4 years later. On March 12th, Haley took the stand to testify against Andre. She said, quote, "I really don't care if I spend the rest of my life in prison, as long as he's behind bars too." On March 13th, evidence was provided that Andre's phone was in close proximity of Adam's house on the night of his murder. Andre was also found to be in possession of multiple of Adam's hats. On March 17th, a medical examiner testified that the bullet pierced Adam's head from behind and exited through his cheek. She concluded that Adam didn't die immediately from this wound. The next day, Andre Warner was found guilty on all counts. The next phase of Andre's trial will be a new group of jury members deciding whether he will live or die. This penalty phase has been delayed because of COVID-19, but will start sometime this year. Andre Warner faces life without the possibility of parole or death by lethal injection. So that was the dating app murders part 1. There will be a part 2 coming out next week on Friday, June 25th, probably around the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Mark it on your calendars. If you want to keep seeing videos from me, please make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and comment a case you'd like to hear about from me. If you want to see daily true crime updates from me, you can head over to my TikTok and or Instagram @TrueCrimeCam. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe out there.